Hello, everybody. My name is Grace Bubeck, and this is a conversation with Devaji as part of the Living from Love online conversations with non-dual spiritual teachers. And ostensibly, this conversation is based on Devaji's book, Illuminated by Love. But I think I rather than speak about the book, which is based on satsang transcripts, very beautiful ones, we'll have a more direct expression of the same that is expressed in the book during this dialogue with Devaji. So, hello, Devaji. Thank you for...
Hi, Grace.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful to read your book, and so rather than read your bio, people can look that up on your website, which is devaji.org or devaji.com. Not sure about that.
Devaji.org.
.org. Okay, wonderful. So, Devaji, what I really loved in your book was the expression of devotion that is there. It was so beautiful and spoke to the radicality of that. You know, the wild abandon to truth, to love, that can take hold of somebody, you know, on this journey. And clearly it took hold of you, and your two teachers, Ramana Maharshi and Ramakrishna, who I actually don't know. I'll be very open with you, I'm very honest. But I take it that's more the devotional line that you fall into. So I'm wondering, could you speak to us about devotion? Because devotion is something that Westerners have a hard time with usually, especially when it takes the form of devotion to a guru. But mostly what you speak about is really devotion to truth or devotion to love. So why don't you start us off with that?
You know, devotion. Am I supposed to be seeing myself?
Oh, I can change.
There we go. The doorway into the taste of devotion is through surrender. At least this is my experience. You know, something that is commonly known by everyone who is involved in the non-dual teachings. Non-dual meaning no two, meaning that there is nothing outside of the source, the self, the essence. And when this is taken to heart, what can become clear in a very short amount of time is that everything is arising out of this wisdom. And this wisdom is oriented in a way to carry you home. And the way that this can occur is by foregoing the habits that distract the attention so that you're available to receive what's being offered. You can only receive what is being offered when you are present. Being present is being in what is called the now. Reality is now. There is no reality in past or future. It's just an ingrained story of distraction that creates an identity and creates the experience of some separate one living in linear time. But your existence is always now. It's always now. You can only exist now. When you are in connection with the feeling of your existence, this feeling is unbounded. It is not lodged inside a particular area. It is an unbounded feeling of being. In the unbounded feeling of being, then you are able to receive the grace of the offer, which is every single thing. It's impossible to receive this when identified as the character, as the doer, as the thinker, because that can only come into effect when your attention has been pulled away from reality, which is the same as to say God, which is the same as to say the guru. Reality is now. Your existence is now. Past and future is a mental creation that distracts the attention into this three-dimensional, five-sensory experience of someone existing in time, only occurring when the attention is pulled away from reality. So when you are sitting in reality, when you are resting in the sense of being, which is not in time, it is eternally now, then the experience of doing and choosing falls away, and the flavor of the beauty of your being is revealed. In this, the grace of the offering of this life, this play of life, can be received. It's not received as separate objects. It's received from a non-localized place. In this, you can feel the love and the kindness and the wisdom that is driving everything. You can feel that you are being serenaded by the beloved in every single subtle offering that is occurring. That every single thing that has had the habit of distraction based on your tendencies is offered, not as a punishment, but you cannot be free if you're not free of your conditioned tendencies. And these are driven by conditioned desire and conditioned fear. The desire for the individual, the fear to protect the life of the individual. All of these tendencies are offered, but when you remain in reality, which is in being, which is in yourself, which is the feeling of the heart, then it all comes so clear that every single thing is a gift of the beloved, and what it will do is it will layer by layer unravel the conditioned armor called the ego and reveal this wildly ecstatic love affair, which is the nature of reality. This devotion that is the nature of reality. It's like a child does not come into this life craving silence. A being comes into this life craving love. Everything is a manipulation by the conditioned mind as an attempt to get love. And there is a reason for that. It is what all of this has been born out of. And the direct feeling and receiving of that is felt in absolutely everything. And it just rips the heart open. It rips the heart open into this beauty that can never be described, because description is in the play of time. It's in perceptive experience. So it can attempt, but the deeper offering is just receiving the feeling. It's receiving the feeling. That is where the transmission, where the juice, where the deepest possibility lives.
So, Devaji, I guess the eternal question for people is, how do I get there? Because they don't perceive themselves to be in this love affair.
Yes.
You know, there's this yearning for something, yearning for silence, yearning for peace, yearning for love. And there may be glimpses that people have had. You know, most people have had glimpses. So how can they open that door? You know, how can they open that door to that reality?
Yeah.
How can you help them open that door also?
Yes, I would be very happy to speak about this. And it follows what has been spoken a little. It lies in receiving what is being offered as opposed to striving to get what you believe should be offered. Striving has to do with future. Future has to do with the distraction which keeps the striver alive. So whatever is playing, it is just simply receiving it as fully as possible. If there is the feeling that arises of yearning, as opposed to going after what the yearning says it is yearning for, it is falling into the depth of the feeling of yearning itself. The thing about yearning is, and I'm not speaking about desire, it's not about getting something. Yearning is the pull of self to self. It's like if you fall into the feeling of the yearning, what is discovered at the root of the yearning is what the story of the yearning is yearning for. It's like the love lives within the yearning. You cannot yearn for something that you do not already know. So whether it is yearning, whether it is the experience of a problem, no matter what it is, it's receiving what is being offered either as the celebration or as the teaching. It is receiving what is being offered. So it's never a getting away from, it's an opening into. So if there is the experience that I am separate and I am lost, it is just opening to this feeling while not forgetting a knowingness that perhaps has come in at times when there have been windows, a knowingness that there is really one source, that it is animating everything. And it's receiving it out of this knowing what is forgetting. What is it that makes this character unhappy? It's just whatever is, it is fully receiving it all the way.
Mm.
And gradually, what occurs when the habit of trying to get or trying to get away from begins to give way, and there is the humble ability just to receive, what you begin to see is the challenges are as fruitful and as important as the openings. It's like the challenges are burning away what has been ignorance. It cannot burn away if it is not seen. It cannot be seen if it does not come up. So it's receiving what the mind wants to get away from. In this, the layers of armoring and numbing naturally begin to fall away, and there begins to be a deeper sensitivity and a greater recognition of this beauty that lives in the heart. I mean, eventually what is discovered is that God, what is called God, lives inside your heart. There is this unbelievable love affair inside your heart, and all of this conditioned protection has numbed and caused a forgetting that drives us to look into the future, into the external. So it's just receiving the perfect grace and wisdom that is coming all the time and attempting to forego the conditioned habit of striving to get somewhere.
Mm. Beautiful. You know, Devaji, I totally get this. And for some reason, I just feel moved to play not devil's advocate, mind's advocate maybe. Because, these days, so many people, everybody talks about awakening and, so this becomes something that people want. And of course, they want it in the future. They kind of, there's this assessment that it's not here right now. So I have to get it. How do you respond to somebody who says, I want to awaken. I want to get this.
Yes.
Because also, my sense is that you speak so directly to the heart that people who are more at the level, functioning more at the level of the mind and an idea of what they want to get, an awakening seems to be something that they need to, there seems to be something that they need to understand rather than abandon themselves to or receive. So how would you respond to somebody who says, look, I just want to awaken. I just want to get it.
Yes, this is complete grace. It is complete grace to have the hunger. The hunger cannot arise out of coincidence. There must be a taste in order to have the hunger. There must be something that is not completely forgotten in order to have the hunger. So the hunger is grace. And the nature of this play we call life, life is what is called typical, ordinary life. It is just like a nighttime dream. It is a daydream. And within the context of a dream, when you are feeling yourself everywhere, what is discovered is that everything that is appearing within that feeling. You are freed from the localized perspective, and you feel how everything is a manifestation that is bringing light and clarity into what otherwise could not be seen. The character that is called you, when you are not in the experience of the doer, is recognized to be a reflection of your state of conscious awareness. So if the character is hungering for freedom, this is an indication that there is something true, something truly hungry, and that is grace. That is complete grace. The thing of it is that the direct door does not have to do with a plan. Plans are in the mind. Mind is the distraction. Mind can temporarily be satisfied if it gets some information of a path that it can follow, something it can do in the future. And it's true for the younger one, in the earlier stages, this is very necessary. It's not the nature of what I offer. I tend to draw people who have been doing this for a very long time, where there has been a readiness through the work that has been done to let go of the sheet music, all of the practice, because that has happened. And there is a kind of maturity. The fastest way, however, is letting go of everything that is known. Knowing is of the mind. The roadmap is in the mind. The mind is built out of the past. The past does not exist. It's a distractive mechanism, and the attention keeps that distractive mechanism alive. It's simply in this moment to have the humility to feel what remains when you stand knowing nothing. And then there is a constant self-reminding mechanism every time mind comes up with some plan, some strategy, something it wants to get, just to let it go with patience, with an open heart, and just coming back to the preciousness that is the nature of what you are. So having a hunger for freedom is a reflection that there is something ready in you. It is beautiful. But that is really the extent of what it offers.
So, Devaji, there's so much that is offered to the mind. And what you offer, my sense is it must be very scary to a lot of people, because you talk about all the things that the mind feels totally uneasy with, like humility, not knowing, there is my sense is there's a radicality in what you're offering that really must challenge people to the core, because you're not willing to engage the mind. That's really right. At all.
That's right. On the one hand, I could say that is true. On the other hand, there is this love. When one is ready to simply say yes, there is this incredible kindness and support and love and joy that begins to be recognized. The mind is viewing it from the mind's perspective, but there is this kindness and this wisdom that is just waiting. Everyone on this journey to any level recognizes the roller coaster that the mind creates. Recognizes that the story is all based out of past, that past only exists in the mind, that the taste of the beauty is the moment that is released, in which case you cannot know anything because you've let go of everything known, which is from the past. You do not know your identity, who you are. And then all of a sudden there is the flavor. And it's like this flavor has inherently within it this wisdom and this kindness and this benevolence. So, if the mind puts it into its thing and says, what about me? Yes, there will be terror. If your orientation is you're trying to get it and grab it for the creation of the individual, that is the distraction, it's not going to work, because the individual is the carrot. It's not the answer. The individual creates enlightenment as some object in the future. But what is here and now is the beauty, and there must be a level of maturity that hungers for that. I mean, if that's not the case, there are many beautiful teachers that offer teachings for those at all different levels. It's just not what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally get that.
I mean, we have a community here. It's of people that have completely left the world to be completely absorbed in this. And for many, many years, I never did any of this. I was only completely absorbed within the community. And it's like, this is really for the person that has this hunger. This is what it speaks to. And it also can speak to someone younger where the flame is there. It has just been dampened if this sparks a flame.
Yes. Devaji, my own history is that I fell in love with my teacher, Gangaji. And that's how my heart got blown open, totally. And for me, it was a falling in love with the teacher first. There was a hunger for the teachings, but it took that particular form before it became, before it opened up more completely. And that's okay, that's what happened here. So I know that grace can just happen to anybody at any time. And it's really beyond us, it's not our doing, for sure.
So long as there is a true hunger for happiness and a humility that is ready to let go of the conditioned mind's positions, the mind's greed to have, and the mind's fear of controlling the life for the separate one, for the separate one's survival. If these elements are even close, then the fuel of the fire will stimulate something, because it is so alive. No matter what is spoken, it is impossible to articulate this beauty. There is such joy. There is such unspeakable joy. Everything that comes into manifest expression is a creation of pure love and light. And on some level, people may say, this is not my experience, but there is something perhaps very subtle that knows. Otherwise, you would not be viewing this.
That knows and that yearns to return to this knowing more fully.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the simple, simple feeling in the heart, in this moment, the simple willingness to let the perceptive experience fall into the background and just to feel what is alive in the heart. And then you're feeling into the beauty. Then there has been a shift from the focus of subject-object dynamics, of the play of time, of you talking to me. And then there is the feeling of the heart, where it is all one. And then there is the beauty of the love. It's just so simple.
It is very simple. I just feel the need to get to keep the dialogue going. But the dialogue could be a celebration of this.
Yes. When the attention is resting in the heart, it is not that the play stops. It has all been preordained. It carries on. It's just, it carries a vibration that really does the work. The degree to which the mind is involved is the degree to which that alive beauty is siphoned off. It's like living in the heart. Then what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the love and the joy and the beauty, because that's what's there.
Yeah.
Like right now, as this slowing down process started, soon as there was pointing to feeling into the heart, now I can feel your heart. And I can feel this love for you. It's all one, and yet there are these flavors. It's like before I could not really feel that so much. It's like now I feel the celebration of this love where we connect.
Mm.
Who would ever want to move from that for any reason? It becomes the gift for all the listeners. It doesn't matter how it plays. It's like holding on to the beauty and the truth. And then something unimaginable shares itself.
So, Devaji, my name, my German name that I was given by my mother is humility.
Oh, wow.
And I've had this love-hate relationship with humility. I hated it as a child, and I've come to see the beauty of it. And, you know, in my own life, what I've come to see is the absolute necessity of this humbling by what unfolds. Because, you know, when I'm not able to embrace it, when there's some resistance to what's happening, you know, then the only way back home is through that humble embracing of that possibility of letting go of my idea of what should be happening.
Yes.
And allowing what happens to show, to reveal what stands in the way, you know, what the conditioning is that's playing out.
Yes.
And so humility has just been this, there's just this ever growing embrace of it, you know?
Yes.
Because it has such a, that's really the way home.
Yes, that's right. And you know, you displayed this humility so beautifully as our conversation was happening just before this question. And this is the reason why this interview is happening. You know, I had mentioned to you on the phone that I had been offered proposals to do interviews, you know, in arenas which reach a much larger audience, and had turned them down because in order for something like this to work for me, it has to be an environment where there is humility, because otherwise it stings. It stings of what is not real. And humility, once you really begin to really get what this is, it is not a challenge. It is the greatest beauty. It is the most incredible nectar, because humility is the erosion of mind. It is the letting go of holding on to these painful positions. And every time something is humbled, the aliveness of the heart and the recognition of what has no threat and what is just alive becomes more and more vibrant. You know, Ramana, you had mentioned in the beginning Ramana and Ramakrishna. Ramana, who you would know indirectly if you were a student of Gangaji's, because he was her teacher's teacher. Mm-hmm. He spoke that God is the most humble of all. There is such incredible joy and freedom in humility. It's the no-oneness in which the heart is overflowing within. Like these words, these words, the only reason why they have any relevance is because there is no sense of where they are going, what they are doing. There is no sense of knowing anything. It will look like something is known, but there is a value in it because it is arising out of knowing nothing, and then it is just free to have its life. And that is why there is value in it.
Mm. Mm. Well, my sense is it's really when it's spoken out of that aliveness, it really carries the aliveness too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And whether words are spoken or not, it's like the deeper offering has nothing to do with content. Content is a bridge. It's like you mentioned guru. What is called the guru is a bridge. Content is a bridge. It's a hand where the mind meets what can carry it into where there is no mind.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful image.
Yeah. You are so wonderful.
I'm just doing my job.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There was something else I wanted to address with you. And maybe that comes from the mind, and that's okay. Which is actually it's two things. One is this question of gradual versus instant. In your book, in your satsangs, you seem to speak much more to the gradual opening or the gradual deepening. And not very much about the instant shifts that can happen. Where other teachers, other non-dual teachers will stress more the instant awakening, the instant shift that can happen, including my own teacher. So how do you see those two? Are they part of the same movement? Is there both gradual and instant at moments? Or is it possible for there to be... Well, I won't go further, but you see the question.
Yes, the most true answer, but I will also give an answer that is a little more in direct alignment with where the question is coming from. But the most true answer is there is only the self. There is no gradual. There is no time. Time is a creation of mind. There is no individual. You look for the past and you can only find now. You look for the future, you can only find now. And then you realize the one who is looking is only a thought. And all there is now, and now is wakeful, and you feel what is wakeful in the heart, and you feel the beauty that is reality. Now, in my experience, teaching for so many years, there are many, many, many openings that occur in this journey for most. When the conditioned habit is out of this point of reference, which it is for everyone, this mind-body goes through openings and closings. In the opening phase, there is the experience commonly for the aspirant that the body evaporates, that this is it, I've had an awakening. And then there is the contractive phase, and there is the sense that I have forgotten the nature of the point of reference. It is like the breath with opening and closing. The opening phase, which is very commonly called awakening, is not awakening at all. It's the grace of a window. But if the opening phase were what is called awakening, there is no one tracking it, experiencing it, witnessing it. There is no relationship with time. There is no, you can't come back from it saying, wow, I was fully absorbed in it for 2 hours. There's no 2 hours, there's no individual. These openings and closings in my experience, which are commonly called awakenings, these cause a gradual erosion of the habit of the point of reference until eventually there is a discovery of something that is never ever changed. And it's not your discovery because there's no you to discover it. It becomes beyond language. Now, this that is called awakening, and it's, again, it's not, I don't like the word because awakening pertains to something. What it really is the death of someone. In the death of someone, there is the discovery of what has never ever changed. This is the ultimate byproduct. It is the unspeakable beauty, and it is far more rare, far, far, far more rare than these opening phases that sometimes can last for years.
Hmm.
And yes, there are some beings that have come into this dreamscape that have had spontaneous awakening and it was finished. It's happened. It's just very rare in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like all that matters is now. It's everything. It's everything to forego every habit and to drink in the beauty. See, it's so beautiful I can speak with you like this. It's like, you know, this is the reason we are here.
Mm. Yes. You know, in what I offer, that's really what I'm always looking for, is that direct sharing, that direct expression. And sometimes it happens and other times it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm just very very grateful that we're here like this now.
Yeah, me too.
Mm.
You know, and when it doesn't happen, that too is the orchestration of the beloved. It's all like a dream. The character that symbolizes you is a symbol of the state of awareness. When you are lost in yourself, it will represent the beauty of that. When there is forgetting, the behaviors will occur that are a reminder that there is forgetting, but everything that comes into expression is the creation of the one source.
Mm. So, Devaji, I have a last question for you. In the non-dual community these days, there's a lot of talk about embodiment, about how awakening is lived, how this knowing of ourselves expresses in the world. And I'm wondering how you see that, because in your in your teaching, there's a lot of stress on this being a dream, which is very traditional Asian teaching, really. And in the West, when teachers speak about embodiment, often it almost seems like they give more space to this dream. Somehow they're not willing to call it a dream. They're more wanting to call it embodiment.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because when I'm referring to the dream, I am referring to the dream of Maya, or the dream of separation. I am not pointing at all to creation. Creation is the grace of God. Creation is the wildest beauty. It is the experience of being separate and bound to a location that is the dream. The embodiment is the embodiment of totality. It's like creation. There's Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is the unbounded potential of pure light. Shakti is the energy that comes in and infuses creation. It's like if you meet an artist who is a true artist, who lives for their art, say a painter, and this painter, whether they are painting some beautiful, expression of the ocean or the sky, or whether they are doing a painting about the depths of human horror, the experience for the painter that is lost in his painting is this wild passion. If he is real, this is the nature of Shakti. It's like the wild, creative expression of this pure love. And this is not a dream. This is reality. And embodiment is the embodiment of Shakti, of what's called the Holy Mother, refers to this often now. It's the embodiment of God's creation that is life eating life, pouring into life as this thick, beautiful soup of this beauty in all of its expressions. And then the body is free to carry out what it was meant to carry out. It will be guided through the absolute instead of the fear-based idea of separation. Creation is God's grace. Creation is no dream.
So embodiment is really the expression of that force, of that love. Ultimately.
Yes, it is dancing wildly in God's creative expression.
Mm-hmm. So my sense is you're using that term slightly differently than most teachers, but that's okay. I think that's just fine. Well, we'll leave it there, and we're kind of, we've taken up more than half of the space that's there also for people to ask questions and participate. So I'd like to hand the space over to everybody who's there, who's here with us. And I just want to see if that's okay by you, Devaji.
Of course.
I want to see whether there are any questions, whether anybody's wanting to raise their hand.
Well, I know almost everybody on here.
Yes. I think your community has showed up in numbers, but there's some people I recognize.
Yes, I see.
From my reading list, mailing list also. So I want to encourage people to come join us in this exploration. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. Just to mention again, you can raise your hand by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and then clicking the button that says raise hands. I'm also just going to see whether anybody's waving at me, wanting to speak. All right, does anybody want to come in? Well, I think people are just basking in this beautiful love, Devaji. Is there anything that you feel moved to add to what's been said?
I'm just waiting to see. I mean, this is the thing of it. When there is a waiting to see, when there is waiting for a movement to happen on its own, then it is no longer in the mind's time frame, it's no longer in the mind. Then the sense of what is eternally unchanging is the unbounded flavor. What is being spoken becomes secondary, the timing becomes secondary. And then the taste of the unity, the love, the beauty remains in the foreground. And then there is the taste of creation, which is so different than the dream of separation. Because the taste of creation is this interconnected love affair that is overflowing with this joy. Even when a player comes into the screen, on the screen, that is in misery and has forgotten, you can feel the beauty that is underneath and the sense that there has been no coincidence, because you can be guaranteed that this being has the potential, or they would not have wandered into this environment. You feel the perfection of everything, the grace of the creation, and there is the loss of the need to know or understand anything. You know, as far as this word embodiment, I don't really know what is commonly out there. I live a very reclusive life. You know, it was over a year when the webpage was put out that it took over a year before I even looked at it. It's like I don't set any of this stuff up, you know, I'm just kind of living a very internal world. And so I don't know what is commonly spoken about this word, but I realize that when you become fully divine, you become fully human. You cannot become fully human if you are not fully divine, and you cannot become fully divine if you are not fully human. Because when you discover your true reality, all conditioned inhibitions vanish. There is no separate system that is monitoring activity. There is no sense that you are doing it. So then it is just free expression like a wild animal. And what moves the form when conditioning is out of the way are two things. It is either pure compassion or pure passion. And they are the two flavors of love. And love is the flavor of the absolute that has infused this creative beauty.
Mm. That feels very true. And I have not heard it said like that. You know, there's many versions of embodiment, but it feels truthful that we can only be fully human when there is the divine moving us, because the rest of our humanity is just conditioning.
Yes, that's right. And what is truly non-dual is the recognition that what is called humanity and what is called divinity are not separate but one. And in this taste, humanity is lit on fire, and it is just the passionate play of expression, unbounded.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. So I really would like to invite people to come in to this. There doesn't seem to be a need to do so because everybody is with us.
I see a hand.
You do see a hand?
Yes.
Okay, maybe
I
I
don't
need
have my
to switch
glasses
the
on.
gallery view. Can whoever is waving? Oh yes, I see you, Lene. Okay, Lene, I'm unmuting you.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yes, I have a question. I'm going to see how I'm going to phrase it. I have a really hard time uh, with embodiment and being the true being who I am. It's like I feel I would like to participate in the world as I know it, and I feel it as separate from divine. And I have a hard time seeing that it's one. And it's like when you, Devaji, talk about you live in seclusion, it's not my wish to do this because I feel I wanna contribute to the world in a different way, in a more active way. And somehow I tell myself that this is not divine, this is not okay. Could you clear this up for me if possible?
I would like to do what I can, sweetie. You know, the first piece about saying that I live a reclusive life, this is not a movement away from the world. It's actually the complete and total opposite. It is a movement away from distraction. In the movement away from distraction, there is the feeling of totality. In the feeling of totality, there is imbibing the suffering of separation. And that is the lion's share of the work that this body does. Prior to all of this, there was great worldly activity. Now, as far as your question, it is simply to follow the heart. It's very simple. The more the mind gets involved, the more distracted you become. It is just moment to moment to follow the heart's pull and to hold on to the heartfelt prayer of, whenever possible, letting go of the mind's interpretation or story and just following your passion moment to moment.
If my passion would be to be involved in trying to change politics from what I find destructive, would that be considered not coming from the heart, but from coming from the ego?
You know, sweetie, I wouldn't worry so much about that. I think at this stage, what is the most helpful is just following the passion of your heart. If it ignites your heart in a sense of passion, it is the movement to follow. Now, from an absolute perspective, I can share that what is my experience and what has been the experience of all true mystics and most everybody in the community around me is that all suffering is internal. It's all internal. It's like all internal suffering gets projected out into what is called the world. But if you are reconciled within yourself, anything can be playing and you are reconciled. If there is some internal issue and the movement is to stay within, no matter what the external stimulus is, you will recognize that this is not the first time this has been felt. It's always a repetition of almost all the time things that happen from very early childhood, and it will use all kinds of things in what is called the external to bring this kind of thing up again and again. The busyness in fixing it out there is you're really not getting to where it's broken. So it's like, as opposed to getting overly involved in doing, if there is remaining with the internal process and looking to see, where does this come from? How old do I feel? You will always discover that it is very, very, very old, and it is the wisdom of the divine that is replicating the play for the possibility of your own self-healing and completion, for the freeing of this shell that creates separation, and that is built around all of this protection. So everything that is underneath that shell that feels vulnerable, what is called the world will project these things for the possibility for you to open-heartedly be this space to meet these internal dynamics.
Yes, I know that's true. I know you're telling the truth. Thank you.
You are very welcome. The whole play of life is an offering for just this. The more you receive it, the more trust replaces distrust. The more the recognition of the wisdom that looked like insanity, the more the wisdom is felt.
Yes.
Very, very happy you can receive this.
Thank you.
You are very, very welcome.
Thank you, Lene.
Thank you.
I'm going to mute you again. And I'm just going to look again whether I see another hand waving. I see very joyful faces. Yeah. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry, Amalie, is that it? Hello, Amalie, I've unmuted you. We can't hear you, though. I think maybe you need to unmute yourself also. Is that possible? We can't hear you, Amalie. Snow.
Sorry.
There you are.
Okay, hi.
Hello, Amalie. Just speak up because you're very faint.
Firstly, I wanted to thank you for the beautiful time with Devaji. And I know that when you mentioned the book, I actually hadn't picked up the book until yesterday. I had a question that was in my mind, and I looked down and there was the book on my desk, and I picked it up, and the answer was so perfectly precise. I mean, and I just realized the gift of the book. And since that was kind of the topic of today, I wanted to say that. And Devaji, hi, and thank you for the book. It's I can see that it's going to be very helpful.
You're very welcome, sweetheart. Yeah. You're very welcome.
It was as good as a phone call.
Did you want to add anything, Amalie?
I think that's it. Thank you again. It's been a beautiful show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for coming up. Yeah. My sense is, well, you know, there's more contribution to this show than meets the eye. So, let me see. I think I'll invite one more person to come in if they want to. Jonah, was that a hand waving? No. Okay. Okay. Looks like everybody's just really happy to be here, Devaji. And there are no questions. So I have nothing else to ask or contribute. So I would just hand over to you, Devaji, and ask whether you want to feel moved to share anything else. Actually, I do have a question for you that just comes up. And it is about political involvement. I'm living just north of the border to the United States in Canada. And I'm involved in a group that supports refugees who come into Canada to ask for asylum from the US. And it's been it's been a very I don't know even how to describe this experience, because I don't feel any great passion that moves me to do that. But at the same time, there's a rightness about doing this work. And my work is more in the background. It's putting up a website for the group and doing some interviews and going to the border to meet people when they cross. And it's very interesting because it just keeps happening. And I wouldn't even be able to say what it is that moves me, but something moves me to continue this. And it's not an idea that I should be doing this or that I need to help refugees and or anything else. I just keep doing what I do. So there's no great passion, but there's a sense of fittingness, maybe, or rightness. How would you respond to that?
Well, first of all, when you are not identified, when you are not absorbed by the mind's conditioning, there is kind of like a non-involvement with bodily endeavors, and it is carried by a higher wisdom. What I would imagine is that what is driving these actions is compassion. And if you feel into that, there is possibly the discovery of this compassion that lives in the heart. Can you feel that?
Yes, I do. And I see that there's been a slight, maybe misinterpretation of compassion, in the sense that it is a form of doing.
Yes.
And I can see that there's just a much more direct sense of being there because that's what's called forth.
Yes. Yeah. In true compassion, there is no experience of doing. The experience of doing arises out of the experience of forgetting. The identification which that has forgotten is driven by an attempt to avoid fear. True compassion arises spontaneously with no sense of doing, and what moves the form is either compassion or passion. And this is the nature of creation.
No, maybe there's some misconception still, because the way this action arises doesn't feel, it doesn't seem to have passion to it. It's quite quiet.
Yes, I understand. It's compassion as opposed to passion. Passion is the typical flavor when the movement is the celebration. Compassion is the movement when it is there being of service to that which is hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the feeling of compassion is mixed with passion, but it not necessarily.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I'm always surprised that I'm still doing this, but I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, a way that the languaging that I would use is it is still happening. And the truth and the beauty is unchangingly now, in which this I can never be found.
Mm. Yes, it cannot be found.
Cannot be found. And then even the one who is looking for it is recognized to be only a thought. And there is no thought now. Thought is perceived out of a habit of moving away based on conditioned habiting. And then what remains? Play still goes on, just like the body continues to breathe. But now it's free. It's in its nature that is always already there. It's just then there is a window into the taste. The deeper the taste, the more alive it becomes, the more alive it becomes, the more magnetic it becomes, until there is a complete impossibility in the slightest way at any time to let go of the beauty, recognize that such a thing would be such insanity. The grace of it is it passes itself on. It's not an individual that passes it on to another individual. It's that when the individual has been eroded into nothing, then what moves through the space is no longer tainted by karma or mental habits. And then there is nothing to obstruct the light. And all you need to do is let it in, and it spreads by itself. This is the grace. Talked about world dynamics. This is what holds the potential of transforming what is called the world into the beauty that is possible. It's only in this moment. There's no individual one to get something in some future time. That is just the habit of distraction. It is just opening to the feeling of being now. And then the habit relaxes and the possibility opens. There is the humility of not knowing and the gift of a taste that deepens eternally.
Thank you, Devaji.
You are so welcome.
Yeah, we'll leave with these words. They're a good way to end this happening.
You know, one other thing that I would like to put out there is the draw for these teachings is for the one who is very serious. We have an absolutely beautiful community where the lion's share of people who live here in this community have broken out of the box. Their homes are made available for people from out of town if they want to come and do retreat and taste this. It's an open invitation. It is not sculpted for the masses, but it is open for anyone who has true hunger and would like to come and attend a retreat and be part of this community, this offering, which is really, really quite amazing.
And you do online retreats too, don't you, and satsangs? Yes. So people can find these details on your website.
Yeah.
And thank you for the invitation.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
Who knows who will feel truly invited and is ready to come. So thank you so much, Devaji. It's been just beautiful to speak to you, and may this be speaking to many people.
Yes, well, thank you for the opportunity and for holding this space and for your openness and humility. And the whole thing is my pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Mine too, Devaji. And thank you to all of you for who came to this live live happening. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again soon. Actually, the next conversation will be in 2 weeks' time on the 17th of February with Unmani. So if you'd like to find out about further online conversations, you can go to the living-from-love.com website. And we'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.